Welcome to our first episode of our podcast, which is called what?
The Engaging Classroom.
Making It Work. All right. Well, you might be wondering what this podcast is. You and I know, Ross, have gone back and forth a lot on this. You might also be wondering who we are and why you should be listening to us. This is my good friend, Russell Dirgo. Russell, tell me about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Russell Dirgo. I've been teaching or been in education for around 13 years now. I taught for 10 years. I've taught everything from fourth grade classroom all the way up to kindergarten through 12th grade computer science.
That's
what I do...
always amazing to me.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I try. What I do now is I work for the Friday Institute at NC State University, and I manage a lot of their computer science projects, as well as some other professional development. What about you? What do you do?
So my name's Adam Davidson. Good friends with Russell here. I worked with him for a long time at Riverside High School, where I worked for 15 years as a Project Lead the Way teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Taught a bunch of different engineering courses, as well as helped establish some of the industry partnerships that we're going to talk a little bit about today. Prior to that, I worked at a Magnet Arts middle and high school in High Point, where I was a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade technology teacher. Now I'm here at Duke University. Props to Duke for letting us use their podcast studio.
Yeah.
And I am the senior lab administrator / undergraduate lab manager for electrical and computer engineering. It's a very long title.
It's quite the mouthful.
It's quite the mouthful. The idea here is that I'm able to help TAs, help students in running the teaching labs for the electrical and computer engineering department, or ECE for short, since we are in education and we love our acronyms.
Yeah, and you mentioned helping, and I think that's kind of why we're doing this podcast, is we want to make sure that we can help other people kind of find the success that we found along the way.
Right. I think that's the point. I think our whole goal here, our mission, is to help you, the audience, the people viewing this, feel more comfortable and confident in your ability to establish industry partnerships, maintain those industry partnerships, and see that two doofuses like us can actually do it, then you absolutely can too. We've had lots of experience with them in the past, and we hope that over the next few episodes of this, we can show you how we've done it, show you how that's been a benefit for the students that we work with first and foremost, for us as educators and our schools and districts as well that we've worked in, and for the industry partners themselves. And we hope to bring you some of that perspective too. Mm-hmm. In some future podcasts where you can actually hear from the industry partners that we've worked with, or some of them at least, and then we'll go from there. Our whole idea is that we want to be able to help people have an engaging classroom, both in the school and outside of the school.
Outside.
Yeah. So parents, community involved organizations, schools, districts, all of that.
Which kind of leads to the first point of why build the industry partnership? Like, how does this benefit the students at all?
That's a good question. And I guess if we had a solid answer for that, we'd make a pod. Oh, wait. We have that.
It's like we're doing.
It's like that's what we're doing. Yeah, I think that it's wait, the question was why?
Yeah, what
Why?
benefit does this provide students at all? Why take the students out of the classroom where clearly the learning is happening?
You know,
I just opened up a huge can of worms for you.
You did. I have so many thoughts about this. I do genuinely think that learning happens in a classroom. It certainly can, especially if it's engaging. I've always had the mentality of you have to have fun while you're learning. And I think some teachers make that happen. I think some professors will make that happen. I think that there are people who are naturally engaging, and students students want to learn from them. And then there are times where it's like, and I know you've seen this before, students will tell us things or come to us with things that they won't go to their parents with.
Right.
And sometimes that happens for teachers where they're just so often with you that there are things that they don't believe because you tell them, that they're like, well, sure, Mr. Davidson, you're just saying that because you have to. But if we can show them, if we can have other people who are in the industry tell them that this is true, or these are the real ways that the industry functions, or these are the kinds of jobs you could potentially have in the workforce, or here's how I got to this particular position because nobody does it the same way. That really can help. But the industry partners don't just stop with people in the workforce. I mean, you could have industry partners that are not the typical, big business kind of industry partner. It may not even be something where it's like what most people might think of as an industry partner, where it's, funding that they provide or something to that effect,
Right.
which I know a lot of universities will look at it like that. They'll see it as, I have this partnership with, some big company, some big corporation, and they're helping make sure that these labs that are also named after them
I was
are
about to say their name is sitting on the outside of the building.
correct, right? So if in that situation you're looking at industry partnerships, there's a huge benefit there. The students get the building, they get the stuff, they get the things that they need to then further their learning that happens within that building. But even the big companies will do industry partnerships with you that aren't necessarily like that, where they want to help the students see what it's like to be in that business.
Well, I was going to say, it's very rare that you see Microsoft Computer Lab in a high school.
That's also true.
In public high school. That those partnerships, it's generally not like funding of a building, of a room,
No, it's not.
or a teacher.
No, it's not.
The teacher's more looking for somebody who's going to work with their kids. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head earlier when you were talking about, as a teacher, I can say to the students, well, when you go into industry, they're going to be looking for this. And the student's response is, well, how do you know? Because you're a teacher.
You're here with me. You're
You
not
don't
in
work
the industry. That's right.
You don't
That's right.
know.
Yeah.
And so kind of if we were both CTE teachers. We were career technical education teachers. A lot of the work that we did was focused around careers and preparing students for the workforce.
Yeah.
And if we're going to be preparing students for that workforce, it's just not going to happen in a classroom exclusively. We have to give them that exposure to the workforce to show them what it's like at the location, have the people from the workforce come and speak to the students about what it means to work there. Because the students are kind of right. We are teachers. We don't do that work. And so when they hear it from that engineer, from that computer scientist, they get it directly, they get that direct experience. So,
yeah, I agree. You mentioned that the industry partners don't always want to work with high school people at the level that they might with universities, where they're going to name something after them. So therefore, a lot of times what it is they come in and they speak and they show. And we've done a lot of that. We can talk about Speaker Day and how that worked at Riverside High School, and is still to this point. I think they just did one 2 days ago, in fact. So certainly that does happen. But when you were saying that, it made me remember a partnership that I was involved with. I didn't set it up, but the I think it was an assistant principal, or it may have been the media coordinator at our school years and years ago. I think this was probably even before you were there.
Yeah, it was probably before I was there.
We had Google come in.
Okay.
And they did Google Cardboard.
Oh.
Yeah.
They did that at Little River as well.
Yeah.
When I was at Little River.
Probably around the same time.
It was probably.
So for those of you that don't know, years and years ago, Google was really pushing for students to be able to experience virtual reality or augmented reality as well. And in this case, it was virtual reality. And they brought in a whole set of Google Cardboard goggles, which they just held up to their face. They were folded cardboard with
Yeah.
lenses in them, and then you dropped in
A cell
a
phone.
cell phone that had an app on it. I'm sure it was a Google Pixel or something like that they dropped in, right?
I'm sure.
And they were promoting, obviously,
Right.
but that's what should happen in this case. They need to get something out of it as well. So they're showing all these students, look at this really cool stuff, this cool technology that not only can we provide, but that you could use and you could use at home. And they gave away a bunch of those Google Cardboard glasses.
Right.
So it was really cool. And that's a good example of where an industry partnership reached out to the district and said, hey, we're interested in this. And somebody at the district level broadcasted it out. And people at the local schools said, yes.
It's a really good example of a partnership, kind of like you were saying, where the industry reached out to the school district, reached out to the schools to build that partnership themselves. But I think that is oftentimes rare. I mean, in that instance, Google had a new technology. I think they were sort of demoing that technology in the schools.
Yeah.
And in that sense, they need that feedback from us on whether or not it's working. But a lot of teachers, when they're looking for industry partners, it's the industry partners not necessarily coming to them, knocking on their door saying, hey, can we work with your kids? We have this new thing. And a lot of the teachers feel that they need to make that contact, or they don't know where to start with that industry partnership.
Right. And for us, for those of you that don't know, we're in the Research Triangle area.
Yeah.
And so we do have the benefit of getting a lot of bigger companies, especially companies that would be more STEM focused, if you will, that are in a particular type of industry that might reach out to our districts that we could then capitalize on.
But even in that, we're here. Research Triangle Park is right there. I mean, we have all of these huge tech companies. And it's still rare that one of them reaches out to us. That oftentimes that communication has to begin with the teacher or somebody at the school who has the time to make that contact with the industry partner. I think that a lot of industry partners want to make that contact. They just don't know who to reach out to.
Yeah, that's a good point. I spoke at a conference one time where that's what they asked me to talk about was, how do you make that contact? We don't know as industry. We have people who are dedicated to this, who we've hired, that they want to do outreach. And a lot of times they don't know who to reach out to, or when they do reach out, it only goes so far. And instead of being able to reach out to the individual teachers or programs within schools, it just falls onto someone's desk and then gets slid off and not really handled. So who are the right people to reach out to? I personally think some of the best people are straight up going to the teachers if you can find them, but that's tough because you don't always necessarily know which teachers have the ability to do this.
You also don't know which teachers will follow through and do that.
And there are a lot of times where if you're looking things up on websites and you're trying to find who those teachers are, they may not still be there.
That's so true.
They may not still be there. I do think that it's worth at least reaching out to two people. One, your CDC, which is your Career Development Coordinator.
Right.
And most middle and high schools will have a CDC, especially here in North Carolina. We had a fantastic one for almost the entire time that I was at Riverside. We had the same one. Great woman. Phenomenal. Did a lot of really good work. And a lot of times she would come to us with, hey, we have these people that are interested in this, or she'd set up like a career day. And would work with teachers all across the building. I mean, that was her job. She was part of CTE, but she helped put careers as a focus in a lot of classrooms as well. So that person for sure, whoever that may be if you're in public schools, at your public school. And then you probably have a principal. You probably have an assistant principal who is responsible for processing information that comes in.
Right.
And that's at the school level, right? So if they know that there's someone coming in, or if they're the point of contact at the school, and a lot of times if you don't have a CDC, it is going to be an assistant principal. But what about at the district level?
Yeah. So, and this is what I was thinking is a lot of times reaching out directly to the high school can be extremely beneficial, especially in a smaller district where maybe there's only 1 or 2 high schools. If you reach directly out to that principal, directly out to the CDC, like they are going to know who to put you in contact with. But if you're trying to work with a bigger district, or maybe it could still be a small district, you're just trying to reach a wider net of schools.
Not just 1 school or 2 schools, but all the schools.
Yeah, that's CTE director for that district. That's going to be who to reach out to. Yeah, they're busy, but this is their job. Like they want those partnerships.
And in larger districts, they'll have people that work with them that are responsible for some of that outreach.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's CTE director. They're going to either direct you to the teacher that you're going to want to be in contact with, because a lot of the bigger districts, like Durham is a good example. I think there's 5 or 6 high schools here. Each of them have their own CTE teams. They're going to be able to say, oh, you're going to want to talk to this person at that school. Or if they don't have the bandwidth for that, they're going to pass it on to one of those people at the district who does.
Right.
And so that will be extremely helpful. But like if you're in an industry, if you're an industry partner, I think it's important to realize that teachers, that anybody in education has a lot on their plate, and their bandwidth may be they may just not have the bandwidth for that communication. So don't just reach out once. If you don't hear back, it's not because they don't want to make that contact with you. It's not because they don't want that partnership. It's just because that morning they had 15 other emails that they were writing to. They may have been in the middle of an email to you and the fire alarm went off. And all of a sudden they had to stop what they were doing and go do something else. Reach out again in a week. Or try somebody else. Try. If you reached out to the CDC, reach out to the vice principal. Reach out to the CTE director.
Yeah.
Don't give up if you're looking to make that partnership.
Side note. So I've said assistant principal. You said vice principal. I grew up with vice principals. I didn't grow up with assistant principals. Did you grow up with having vice principals?
I don't know where that phrase changed. Oh, gosh. Yeah, I think I did. I think I had vice principals growing up.
Yeah.
When did it become assistant principal?
When I started teaching. I don't think I ever knew them as assistant principals until I started teaching in 2004. Like it genuinely in my head is always vice principals. And anytime I'm getting ready to say what they are, I have to remind myself here they're called assistant principals. Call them assistant principal. But yeah, I always want to say vice principals.
Yeah, I'd hate to insult somebody by calling them a vice principal instead of an assistant principal.
It sounds very imperialistic, right?
It does.
Vice principal.
I was thinking that maybe we didn't want to call him accidentally vice president. But
okay, so whether you're an industry partner, like straight up from a company or corporation, large or small,
right.
Or you are somebody from a university wanting to reach out to schools. We do a lot of that here as well. You and I have the benefit of, or I especially have the benefit of being able to reach out to people that I know that are still in Durham Public Schools and for that matter, in some of the surrounding districts as well. Teachers, somehow all of my friends are also in education in some fashion. So I also know a lot of people that are teachers. Sure. And so that does make it easy because that's a foot in the door. But if you can't reach out directly to the CDC, the Career and Development Coordinator at a local school, or an assistant / vice principal at a local school, or the principal perhaps as well, or you don't know a teacher there, then your best bet is to go with the Career and Technical Education Director, the CTE Director for the district. And their team, if not that particular person, will be able to get you in touch with the right people.
Sure.
Ideally.
Sure.
Ideally. And if they can't, or if you feel like it's falling on deaf ears, try again.
Sure. Yeah. Now, that's great advice for the for the industry partner
coming in.
But
how do you get out to those people?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. How, if I'm a teacher and I'm looking to build this partnership, because I do workshops all the time. I was in a workshop yesterday, and one of the teachers said, "Hey, do you have any examples of really or do you know of anyone I can call that has just led a really good field trip or can come and talk to my class?" And I say, yeah, sure. I'm going to direct you right to Adam Davidson. No, but the how, if you're a teacher, do you begin to make that contact? Who do you even call?
Well, so I think it's important to point out, and I'm glad you brought this up, because again, this isn't in our blog, right? Which, by the way, we also have a blog.
We do.
Yeah, we'll put it in the description below. But it's not in there because we didn't really think about it at the time. But it's weird things like this that pop up. You know, you're in a position where you used to be in public schools.
Yep.
And now you work for a public university. You work for a state-funded university. Go NC State, Wolfpack. And you're going out to conferences to train people on computer science.
Right.
Which is what you were doing. And it's at places like that, or like where I was at a conference doing the opposite of that. I was talking to the industry people, right? You were literally helping this teacher find that contact. And that's very useful. But you have to then be in a district where they're going to send you to conferences like that. And then you have to be willing to go on a Saturday of all days.
Which, after a week of teaching, is tough.
Which is very tough to do. So if you do have that kind of benefit and you can make those contacts there, you know, trade business cards, talk with people. Those conferences are about getting out there and talking with each other as much as you can, and as much as it is about you learning something new while you're at some seminar or something like that.
Right. I think most people in the industry would know that when you go to a conference, you go oftentimes just to network.
Yeah.
And I think as educators, when we go to conferences, we oftentimes just focus on, these are the sessions I want to go to. And maybe we're not focusing as much on the networking because that's just not what we're thinking about. We're thinking about, how do I improve things for my students?
And sometimes that comes with having that networked person.
That's exactly right.
Yep. So that's the off chance that could happen. But then how do you do it if you're not going to a conference? You're a fairly new teacher. Nobody's sending you to a conference anywhere. You can't afford to go to a conference somewhere.
Or the conference is 4 or 5 hours away.
Yeah.
And your district's not willing to put you up in a hotel.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you go and you just can't find anybody that can give you this kind of information.
Also is the case.
So what we did at Riverside when we first started this kind of idea, we did some cold calling. We both listened to people who were reaching out to us because they could or we had that benefit, and we had those kind of conversations with them. But certainly, and when I say cold calling, because I know not everybody is a fan of being on a phone, but when I say cold calling, that can be a cold email. That could just be, I found your name on a website at a company that I think my students would love to hear. Or maybe your district does have a list of companies that are already interested in working. You just have to make that initial contact.
But it's also not completely cold calling. I think one of the things that we were really good about was utilizing the parents that we had to try to make those contacts.
Sure.
So that could be beginning of the school year, sending home a survey to the parents, and where you ask for their name, you ask for their phone number, some contact information, and then you ask, like, what do you do for a living?
Right.
Like, where do you work? Because it may be that they work now. Maybe that they don't work for a tech firm. It may be that they work at wherever.
But that doesn't matter.
But that doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It may be that they don't work at all, and they may choose not to answer that question.
You know, correct. And we may not get the answer. But I was actually visiting a classroom where they had somebody come and speak. It was a computer science class.
Yeah.
They were coming from an industry that had nothing to do with computer science. And I was thinking to myself, yeah, I want to see this. I want to see where this goes. Well, turns out that this industry used machine learning for quality control, where they were scanning every product that went down the line
Oh, cool.
for flaws. And this was a computer science, like such a computer science topic that these kids were getting exposure to in a field that I never would have expected it. But it worked. And this company was able to advertise kind of what they do to the students, was kind of give that experience, talk about how they could get the job straight out of high school, or if they went to a community college, make that much more. And it all came from like just talking to people in the community. That's where this whole thing came from. So it didn't need to be Microsoft or Google that they were talking to. It was just this local company that had ingrained computer science into what they do.
We did a tour one time. I forget the name of the two different companies that we went to, but they were up near Roxborough.
Yeah, so if anyone doesn't know, Durham to Roxborough is 45 minutes to an hour. So
something like that. But we had colleagues that worked at Riverside that lived in that Henderson, Oxford, Roxborough area. And for those of you that are from the area, you'll know those names.
If you live in Ohio, you probably don't.
Unless there's some there as well. The point is, it was a very rural area.
Yeah.
And they had some manufacturing that was happening there. And I think one of the companies was Dill, was the name of it.
Pickles?
No.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, they had these factories. They had these places that we could go and tour. One was much bigger and was more about how they kind of took all this stuff that was being manufactured and they store it in a warehouse and so forth. It was really neat to see. And one of them that we went to was very manufacturing based. It was a very loud place as well. Lots of machinery, lots of neat things to let the kids walk around and see. And these students at that time had just barely started to see what we were able to do with some machining at Riverside as well. And so they started to get their head around what this looked like. Some of them were working with school science and math on robotics, and they were starting to see some of that in some of the courses that we had as well. Yeah. So they had a chance to actually see the large scale equipment, both in the manufacturing side of things and in the warehouse kind of side of things. And there was some automation that was happening in both places. And it was amazing to see that, here are these industries that the people that we were talking to weren't necessarily engineers, and we were coming from an engineering program at a high school. But they were people who worked with engineers, or they managed them, or they were technicians, and they were responsible for making sure that the business ran instead of that they were designing things or making products. It was, how do we make sure that all these products that came in on this truck get pulled off this truck and properly stored and ready?
Yeah.
Or how do we make sure that this stock material is the right resource that we need and we're getting it for the best price possible?
Sure.
And those things were really important for our students to see. And those were some of the best field trips that we went on.
Yeah, one of the examples I like to give is, especially in rural North Carolina, there's a lot of agriculture. There's a lot of farms. There is so much engineering and computer science that happens on a farm that it is remarkable. And I don't think that the people who work on those farms necessarily realize how interesting and how engaging that can be for the students. So they're not even reaching out to the schools to talk about it. And if they are reaching out, they're reaching out to an agriculture class, not a computer science class, not an engineering class. But they should be. And so as a computer science teacher, if you're a computer science teacher and there's no computer science industry around you, there's no software developers, there are still people who work with computer science, who work with engineering that you can reach out to and lead these field trips. But we've probably gotten ahead of ourselves a little bit. We're already talking about like the field trips and the events that you can do. I actually don't think that a lot of these partnerships start with field trips.
No, they really didn't. They really didn't.
Maybe you luck out and you find this person who they're just great with kids and they just want to hold this field trip. You bring your kids to the field trip, like they charter a bus for you, buy lunch. But that's just not how it happens often. it starts much smaller than that a lot of the time.
So one of the ways that we started was we brought the people to us. We would hear from them in one way or another. Either we reached out to them or they reached out to us, or both.
Right.
And one of the things that we did, one of the guys that I worked with that was there with you as well, he was kind of our face, if you would, of the program. He did a lot of the contact. He had a lot of business experience.
You know, we were really fortunate. This is a place where I think we lucked out a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he started as a teacher.
Yep.
Teaching was really his whole life. So he had 24 hours a day that he was willing to dedicate to this.
Yep.
And through that, through you working with him, through more people coming on as you began to build this program up, he moved out of the teaching role into a role where he was able to kind of
He was our coordinator.
He was the coordinator.
Yeah.
A lot of schools don't have that. We just managed to luck out and get this coordinator who did a lot of these did a lot of this contact for us.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. So there was a guy who we'll hear from in the near future. His name's Joe, and he was on a board of people that Project Lead the Way, or PLTW, put together before any of us were teaching. And they said, we want you to help us make sure that we're doing the right thing in STEM. Right. We make this curriculum. We want to start distributing it to districts, to schools. And we want to make sure that companies like yours that he worked for have a say in it, have a stake in it.
Yep.
And so he got his name on a list. And I don't know the details of how Tim, our coordinator, got that list.
Yeah.
But he's a fantastic guy. Somehow he talked to somebody. Somebody said...
he probably cold called somebody.
Well, I'm sure that he did. I mean, but there were people here in Duke that at the time, that's where we got our training.
Right.
And so there were people, I mean, it's right down the street, right? So there were people here, I'm sure, that had access to things like that. And they probably said to Tim in conversations that he was having, again, that's a partnership. And he got his list of people and he said, I'm going to find these people. And he reached out and heard from Joe, and Joe then got some other people, and we'll save that for the next podcast. But basically, they had a lunch, and they all decided that there were ways that they could help, and that started the relationship. It was just a lunch. It was just what are you guys doing at Riverside, and what are you doing at this company? And I think that our students would really love to see what's happening at a company like this. They'd love to hear from people like you, and we would love for them to hear from people like you. We think there's a benefit to that. And that started with then bringing them to us. And we had speaker days. We had day-long events, and they don't have to be day-long, but ours were. And we had day-long events where people would come in and they would speak to our students, multiple throughout the day. Sometimes we'd have 3 for the first 2 periods. They'd do 3 a period, and they'd do it twice. And then we'd have lunch, and then we'd have 2 more periods of the day, and we'd have 3 more speakers that would speak during that time. So usually a total of 6 or so. And those people, like Joe, would come in and address the students. They would tell them about their career. They tell them how they got there. They tell them about the business they're in. They would make a connection.
Sure.
Build that relationship with their audience of students. And it started small, 60 students.
Pretty small. And it doesn't even have to be like a speaker day. It could be just visiting for one period of day, like 45 minutes.
Or Zoom in.
Zoom in. I actually have a teacher friend who once a year, every spring, she has her students do mock interviews, and she calls local businesses. She'll get like a mechanic. She'll get manager from a local grocery store.
Yeah.
I often go, and we'll just interview the kids. And it's middle school. Their resumes are like, I babysit my neighbor's dog. But it's just practice interviewing, and it gets people in front of the class. It begins that relationship. So as a teacher, just getting the industry partner in the door, oftentimes exposing them to the students, saying like, yeah, like if you had fun with this, would you be willing to come back another day and speak to the whole class about what you do? From there, like you maintain that relationship, you keep it going year after year. So one of the things that she is wonderful of doing is she does these interviews once a year, but she contacts the people, brings them back every single year to come talk to her kids in hopes that it can grow more. It can become something much larger.
Right. And I think that's essential to building that relationship. You have to have not just the initial contact and the lunch or the phone call or the whatever, but you have to trial each other.
Yeah.
You have to have a period of time where you're seeing, does it work?
It's an audition, if you will. You're auditioning this business partner, this industry partner to see, hey, this person may be great in business, but are they going to be able to talk to my kids?
Let's talk business for a minute. It is incredibly expensive to do a field trip.
Yeah.
You're talking about, and you can find cheaper ways to do it. But at minimum, you're talking about a substitute for you, unless every single one of your students is going and nobody stays behind.
Which is never the case.
It's never the case. And maybe you have some colleagues. I know a lot of times if I had one or two students that wasn't able to go with us on a field trip, not all of us went on the field trip.
Right.
So you could just say, hey, you're going to go over to Russell's class and you're going to sit in there for a little bit and they'll be fine.
But if you
have something in place for them.
Right. If you teach entrepreneurship and computer science, you're not going to be able to take your entrepreneurship class to a computer science field trip.
Correct.
It's just not going to work. Same thing, vice versa.
I mean, we used to take people out to, again, Oxford Henderson. There was an airport up in that
Right.
area. And I could take my aerospace class, but I wasn't going to take my engineering design course with me.
Sure.
They went on a completely different field trip, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So it's costly because you also have a bus.
You have a bus. You have to feed the kids.
You have to feed the students
like
in some
to eat.
fashion. And that may not be on you as the teacher, but it's then on the industry if it's not, or on the students to make sure that they've brought a lunch. And honestly, we had a lot of students that were free and reduced lunch.
But we're also talking about like financial, like all of this takes time as well on the teacher's part.
Yeah.
Like plan, even
It
if
does.
you don't have to pay for the food, you still have to plan to get the kids fed.
Because the cost isn't always just monetary.
Right.
Right. It's time, it's effort, it's willingness as well on both parties and a lot on the teacher too.
But from the industry side, it also costs them a lot. I mean, you basically stop production for a day so you can get a bunch of kids to tour your building.
Yep.
You're taking your engineers from their work to come interact with the students. That's lost time, lost labor that you're now dedicating to this field trip, to this event.
So we had people that came to us, Joe being one of those people, and his group of people that he brought along as well. And they came to us. They did that a few times. And eventually we got to the point where in doing a lot of the kind of speaker day type events, we talked a lot. And we agreed that there was more that we could do. There was different things that we could do.
Right.
We could have an impact that was bigger. And at the same time, more focused.
But it's also important to note that the reason you were able to do something bigger is because you had done the initial event. You had shown this industry partner the value of working with your students.
Correct.
And so they were willing to say, oh, that loss in labor, that loss in time is worth it to bring these students to our place of work.
One of the really neat things that I think Tim did, our coordinator, was that after we had these kinds of events, these speaker day things, he was so good at digesting data.
Yes.
And then getting it back to everyone that was a stakeholder in the event, right? So the principals saw it, the CDC saw it, we saw it, our parents saw it, and the industry partners saw it. And he would survey, he'd poll the students, and he'd find out things like, which one did you enjoy the most and why?
Yep.
Which one did you enjoy the least and why? And he would share that information for good and bad to the industry partners, and he would show them this is how much of an impact what we just did had.
Right.
And that really, I think, helped motivate the biggest industry partnership that I had, the one with Joe. They wanted to do lunch with me over the summer.
Sure.
And specifically with me, a lot of this was because at that point, I think Tim had stopped doing as much teaching. He was more coordinating at that point.
Right.
He had, I think, instead of 3 periods a day, he had 2.
Yeah.
And we were on a block schedule, so we only had 3 and then an off period.
Yep.
And then it eventually got to the point where he had 1 and then none.
And then he had none.
And then he had none. And then he had other acronyms to his title as well, other than just our coordinator. And what this really boiled down to was that these conversations shifted from the big guy in charge of everything that we were doing to this teacher. Mm-hmm. And it gave me opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise. But it also allowed for us to talk about how can we be impactful on our largest group of students, which are the first-year students, the freshmen.
It was an introduction to this business that a lot of people didn't know about.
Yeah.
It got students thinking, oh, like that's somewhere that I could work, when 2 weeks ago they had never even heard of the company.
Never even heard. Used their product stuff all the time. All the time. Spoiler. Well, actually, no spoiler. We don't want a spoiler for it. You'll learn about it in our next podcast. That company is so well known, and yet so few people know about them.
Right.
Even today, I ask people if they know about it, and I'll flip over some electronic device and show them.
I didn't know about them.
Here they are. But they do a lot of testing, and our students in the first year course is an introduction to engineering design, and so there's a lot of design work that happens in that class, and we're teaching them so many different things. But one of the things that we often would teach them are the soft skills of presenting.
Yeah.
And that is so hard to do. It's so hard for people to, like when you did the mock interviews and you had to be able to talk with the students, the first thing that went through my head was, oh my gosh, those middle school students had an opportunity to have a conversation with an adult.
Right.
And that meant that they had to up their game a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't do like what we think of as most young students would do when they speak with an adult.
So if you're a teacher, this is something that you just know after a few years of experience, is that you have to teach your students everything. You cannot take anything for granted.
Nope.
When you tell students, hey, I want you to work in a group,
you're teaching them how to work in a group.
You've never taught them to work in a group.
That's right.
They don't know how to do it.
That's exactly right.
When you say, hey, you're going to do this presentation, if they've never been taught how to do a presentation, you're going to have to teach them to do a presentation.
If you want it to go well.
And so like what that teacher did was she said, well, I'm going to teach them how to do an interview. I'm going to have them do mock interviews. So the first interview they do is not the one for a business, for a company. But back to what you were saying, you wanted to do these presentations.
So what it really started as was we went to them and we took 60 kids and we showed up at their place and we just did speaker day there.
Right.
They talked to our students and they did some hands-on things. Mm-hmm. But we could do more. We knew that we could do more. And then we had lunch, and then we went on tours of the different labs and stuff that they had. And it showed us that we can do this. We can go out. We can get all the paperwork in line. We can afford it. The students are interested in doing this. Of course they are. They get out of the school for the day, right? But student doesn't want that.
Like, honestly, there are actually a lot of kids that would not want that they would go there and just spend the entire time on their phone.
This is true.
That's what made this partnership so good. That's why doing that sort of initial, we'll call it a mock audition in the class, see how they work with kids, was so good and so beneficial, because then you knew, oh, these people know how to work with kids. Yeah. Oh, I can bring them to this business.
Well,
and it'll be successful.
And so that's the thing. That's the next conversation that we had was we had lunch and we said, okay, here's the feedback that we got from the students. This is what they're thinking. This is what I'm thinking. And what are you guys thinking? And so we got to the point where we said, what we need to do is have the students be more involved and have less of the old guys, as they would say, talk to the students, right? So we wanted to engage them in the classroom outside of this field trip to prepare them for what they're going to do on the field trip. So I said, well, great. We have this really cool kind of project that we do where we do all this testing, and the students have to come up with their own testing protocols for things. Great. That's exactly what we do here. So they gave us a bunch of the different objects that the students would see being tested in these labs. And they said, have your students do these things. And they kind of laid it out. And again, I don't want to spoil too much for what we do next time, but what we essentially came up with was a way for our students on Fridays to get with their group that was going to present from their class, and they presented on a particular topic, how they would test it, everything about that product, and then they would practice it.
Right.
And I wouldn't make them dress up. They showed up however they were on a Friday.
Sure.
But I would give them honest feedback that was not just critical, but rather constructive, and explain to them that when you're speaking to these people, yes, have note cards with you. That's fine. But you can't just talk like this at your notes.
You
the whole
can't
time.
sit and face the board.
Correct.
And read off of the slides.
Right. Yep. And they would make they would make a slide deck. They'd make presentations, and so I taught them how you don't turn and look at the board. You stand to the side of it. Think about like a meteorologist standing in front of the screen. They're not facing the screen. They're standing to the side of it. And you've got notes that you're following, and practice those so that it becomes more routine for you. And so we did that numerous times throughout the semester leading up to the field trip. And we knew we'd planned it in the summer. And so we knew going into the semester that, October, November, or whenever it was, we'd have a field trip. And then we knew that we'd have another one in like February. Right. Or March or whatever. We had it planned out for the year because we'd done it so many times at this point. And we probably went 15, 20 times to this place. A lot. I went a lot to this one particular place.
Over years.
Over many years. Sometimes multiple years, multiple times in a year. We got to the point where the students would give these presentations so well. I'd stand at the back of the whole place that we were in with the guys that were running this, Joe being one of them. I don't know if the students ever knew this, but just almost tears in my eyes at how well they're doing and how engaged they had their audience. Or how engaged they were with their audience. Their audience consisted of the other students who were there that weren't presenting, but then also the subject matter experts, the SMEs, the engineers that Joe and his group would bring in from the labs that specialized in these products. And they would engage with them, and they were impressed. And they would come to us afterward and tell us, I've had meetings with adults that don't speak as clear as these students or know how to present as well. And that small effort made that student semester. It was so much fun for them because they saw that they put in all this work and it paid off. They got lots of kudos from the people there. They got a nice free lunch out of it. They got to see some tours. Some of the things that we did, which we'll talk about next time, the students were involved in the actual testing in the labs themselves. And that's, when do you ever get to do that, So they really got a lot out of this. It was very engaging, and it took years. And I don't know, we could talk to Joe about it next time, but it was multiple visits before we realized we should do this.
Like we're building this from, it starts as a lunch. It starts as a phone call where you sit over lunch, maybe talk about a partnership. Then you do a class visit. Then you do a speaker day where you have multiple industries come and talk to the students. From there, you bring the students to the company. You have almost a speaker day at the company. You do tours. It's more sit and gets, students kind of receiving information. And then over years, this is a years-long process. You get to a point where the students have an activity that they're doing. They prepare for this activity before going on the field trip. They then present to the SMEs. It's more engaging. They have an experience where they go and take the tour. They're engaging with the different testing that is happening at the company. It's a years-long process. This did not happen overnight.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't. It didn't even happen over 5 years.
Right.
I mean, a decade or more
And you kind of talked about like it started with that cold call.
Mhm.
Then it went to like maintaining that
Yeah.
relationship. You mentioned Tim would send them feedback
Yep.
from the students. One of the things that I have always found really impactful is the students write a thank you letter.
Yeah.
Write it. I know that high school students don't want to color a thank you card, but it is amazing how much an industry partner loves getting that colored thank you card in the mail. Like that means so much to them.
I mean, it could be as simple as you do a survey with your students, you do a Google form with your students,
Right.
what was your favorite thing? And then you're just taking snippets of what they say or just their response to that without editing it
Yeah.
for the most part and dropping that into an email that you send to thank them for it. If you don't have that ability to reach back out to them, even if it wasn't the best experience ever, just to let them know that one, thank you for the time because we know
Sure.
that this took a lot from you as it did from me, but also at the same time, this is something that I'd like to do again or try again. Let's keep on each other's radar.
Write the email on the that day
Hmm.
and just schedule it to go out the following day.
Mhm.
Just like when you have that moment that you can sit down and say like, "Hey, thanks so much for coming out to the school. Hey, thanks for letting us come out to you." Write it, schedule it for the next day. Just make sure you get it back to them.
I
so
would
they get that
often
feedback.
I would often draft it sitting on the bus driving
Oh
back.
yeah, I was gonna say on the bus.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I would often do that. Um,
You want to highlight some key points?
yeah,
for us?
I think that the key points are one, don't be afraid to, if you are the teacher reaching out to the industry, don't be afraid to find a company, find a mom and pop shop, a local area business that you can reach out to, somewhere that you like to shop, somewhere that you like that you
Sure.
know is a local industry. Don't be afraid to just reach out to them and talk to a receptionist and say, this is who I am. This is what I'm looking to do.
Mhm.
Who can I get in touch with? Do a little bit of research. That helps.
And you might fail the first time, but
Or the 15th time.
right.
But keep with it. Persistence is important in this case.
Mhm.
And then I think that once you do get in touch with that person, start with something that's small. Start with, first of all, start with just having a conversation.
Right.
And then after that, having something where they're coming to you. It's easier for that one person to come to you, even if it's virtual, and test the waters.
Right.
Then give feedback and get feedback.
Yes.
Get and give both. And take that, to heart and try to better it for the next time and let that industry partner know you're interested in continuing. And if you both agree, again, it's a relationship. You both have to want to do it. And so if you agree that it's worth continuing, then you've got a solid connection.
Right.
And at that point, you can start talking about, well, what does work better? Does it work better for us to come to you? Maybe it works better that we continue to do this. Should we involve other people? Start to grow it.
Yep.
Start to grow it in the way that works for you and works for the industry, that works for the partnership. Consider even really at that point involving other people on your side too. Maybe there are other classes or other teachers, or there are other people that can be involved. Consider the financial impact of going to them. If you can, we were very lucky to have a lot of people that could cover for us if we needed to.
Right.
I had particularly found really good people that would sub for me
Mhm.
that wanted, I found through industry partnerships, oddly enough, that wanted to come in and help
Yeah.
out when I could. And I had a driver.
Yeah,
for
we had
bus.
a great bus driver
Oh,
that we
Charlie
could
was
just
great.
call him up.
Oh, he was so wonderful. And so we had this opportunity to be able to do that. Not everybody's going to.
Yeah.
So work with your local people. Work with the people that are dedicated to helping with industry partnership. CDCs, Career and Development Coordinators, and Career and Technical Education Directors. Maybe you have an assistant principal or vice principal that can help you out as well, or somebody like a Tim that can help out with those things. Once you have something established, follow up. Follow up often.
Yep.
Thank them because they're going to do that for you. They're
Mhm.
going to thank you as well. And then try different paths. You got one successful Try another one.
Yep.
Try a different place. You don't always have to go back to the same place every single time. And if it's not working, don't force it.
Right, right. If it's not working, don't force it. It's okay to cut off the contact, say thank you so much for your time, and then just leave it at that.
Yep.
And I think it's also important to know you don't have to go from 0 to 60 immediately. You don't have to go from, okay, we had an awesome classroom visit. Now I'm going to model my entire curriculum around this one trip. You don't have to do that. You can simply build it over time.
Yeah.
Figure out what works for you and what doesn't work. So,
yeah. Well, this has been our first episode of An Engaging Classroom.
Yeah.
Making it work. If you like this, we hope to have more. Thanks to both NC State and Duke for letting us have this collaboration with each other.
Yeah.
And for using the blog is over on the Friday Institute's website.
Correct.
We'll put the link in the description.
Yep.
Duke also did some really good outreach stuff with the IO magazine, which I think this year is all online. And so once that's live, we'll link that as well. And within there, we have kind of a podcast 0.5.
Right. It's like our test podcast,
It
if
is.
you will. Thank you, Duke, for providing the space.
Yeah, this is
for
great.
us to do this. You can see the Duke colors behind us.
Yeah, and to the department for ECE for letting us do this, and to Friday Institute for hosting the blogs as well.
Yeah.
And to all of you for listening to two doofuses talk about their experiences in education.
Speaking of two doofuses, if you do have recommendations for us, let us know.
Yeah.
Also, if you know of really good experiences between teachers and industry partners, let us know. We'd love to kind of reach out to people, find out what their experience was.
We have, much like we've been talking about a survey, we have one for all of you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we'll put it in the description so that you can fill it out. If you want to get in touch with us and share your experiences and maybe talk with us some more about it, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great time.